Woohoo and happy day, everyone. Today is Friday. It's May the 10th. We are here at uniFires governance session. And today we have Mike with us. Maybe a quick introduction to Mike. Mike is awesome. First already, he's very lovely, kind, and kind
Very,
person.
very.
Very,
In real life
yes.
too. Yes.
Oh, beautiful. Yes, and he's maybe Mike, would you like to give one quick intro to yourself before we go into the intro of the session? Who
Uh,
who
I,
who are
I'm
you?
not I'm not good with introduction. I am Mike Hornan. I'm just a Cardano normie. A lot of people see me as maybe more than that, but I'm a diesel mechanic by trade. I never studied as an IT, but I do share everything that I know, and I'm a coach also by trade. That's what I do right now. I just show to people how to I show to other mechanics how to do mechanics. So I like to show stuff to people, right? So everything I learn about Cardano, I just transmit it in some infographic that obviously some people seem to like. And that's pretty much it. I'm the state pool operator of Able. Yeah, I should mention that as well. Um, and yeah, we're real quick about the pool. We're there's actually six operators. There's six of us, and we take decisions together, which sometimes lead to a lot of arguments, but we manage to make things right. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Hmm? Maybe one, two decent additions to it because you said you're a Cardano normie. You're definitely not a normie. You're like hardcore. You are one of our brightest, I would say.
I'm
And
just passionate. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed by I'm obsessed by things I don't understand. So I just dig as much as I can to end up understanding what I do not understand because I it might be a mental illness or something. Anyway.
and I think I would definitely say you're really incredible, valuable, key contributor to everything Cardano governance, which is right now a lot in development and design process. And Mike, you're doing a lot there. SunshineNet, which is testnet for everything Cardano on there, especially in regard to governance, GovTool things and stuff. So I think you're one of the people from the community side, which I would definitely acknowledge as one of the most well-known, most detailed, most well person on everything governance. And like you said, you have an amazing educational part as well, right? And that's very often a challenge of governance, how to simplify something this highly complex and difficult like
Yeah.
governance in our ecosystems. And Mike, just before we kick off, thanks a lot for everything what you did already so far and what you are doing. It's awesome, and you have a lot of impact on a lot of good people. That being said, today in the session, and that's why we have Mike here, we go a little bit on looking on the current state of Cardano development. Like, keep in mind, right? Nothing on this is yet fully fleshed out and developed. It's still a lot of in development design process. But ideally, what we do today is we present this already a little bit, and we look on it from the perspective of Polkadot, because our governance systems are based on very much same, let's say, methodologies a little bit in this regard, maybe, or systems, which includes liquid democracy. So this nice mesh of direct and representative democracy playing together to, yeah, govern our blockchain ecosystems, right? While it's the same, let's say, basis, both ecosystems take very unique approach to solve specific challenges and topics within this very complicated like thing. And I would say on Polkadot side, they are a little bit advanced when it comes to implementation. It means, for example, voting delegation is live already. So what we call DREPs is something that they have already since 8 months. Also, the on-chain mechanism that directly, for example, for us, everything would be implemented with CIP 690 for later that we can directly submit proposals to the treasury, not yet on Cardano, but already on Polkadot. And on this side would be insanely interesting to compare Cardano ideas and design against Polkadot experiences. And to see, okay, how does place actually out? And also to compare some basic design and everything. And maybe what do you think about the session that we give Mike some decent minutes to maybe maybe Mike, what do you think? We don't go that detailed as you usually do with your workshops. So we don't go heavily into all the parameters for the DRAPs and the constitution, but more from a high level. Then let the conversation go and see, okay, where's it going? But we're trying to open conversation and having the Polkadot folks here asking the right questions and saying, how does it work also on your side?
So you want me to summarize real quick the way it is, right?
Like, feel free to use your infographic. Your infographics are awesome.
You want me to show it? Like it's gonna take a while if I do that.
I personally have time, and if you like to share your screen, would be amazing.
Okay, give me a moment.
And Victor, you're looking fresh. Something happened to you. You look smart as shit now.
I'm actually ill a little bit, but thank you, Felix. Yeah, and sorry for the little bit delay. I'm here, and yeah, I would like to jump in through the Cardano governance.
Besides the good looking, I also see, I think I have a small sunburn. Could it be? Okay, anyways.
I don't know if you see it well. Just let me know.
It's come through clearly.
Yeah, I don't know if I can summarize this real quick, but there's a lot. Actually, this infographic only shows the governance part of the protocol parameter, which is a little bigger than that. Actually, it is way bigger than that, but that's what it is. Yeah, just to summarize it, in Cardano, we have, I'll say 4 things that's really important to consider about governance. We have a constitution, which rules in it about general governance, which contains also guardrails for specific protocol parameters to make sure that we don't cross them because it could endanger the blockchain. And we also have 3 governance bodies, which are the Constitutional Committee, the stake pool operators, which are the validator of our blockchain, and the DREPs, which represent the entire community, and they vote on their behalf. So not sure if I should summarize this all because it usually takes an hour minimum and like an hour and a half. Did you want me to do this? Or you want me to like be more like global?
I personally prefer detail, but maybe not everyone is there on
I could. It's just that I'm going to take the old, probably the old. You're not going to talk about Polkadot much if I do that. So, okay,
Go for it, Mike.
Just go for it. And just go for it. And maybe if somebody has questions or want to drop a note or thought or what needs to be, we keep it open.
All right. Okay, so I'll start with I'll try to make it quicker. I'll start with the thresholds, right? Because in our governance mechanism, specifically for DREPs, we have, the voting. Yes?
Just one quick note. You have the French infographic up.
Oh, you're right.
Can you switch to the English one?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
I'm so sorry, guys. I didn't realize.
Don't worry.
Don't worry about it, man. I just can't understand it because I'm uncultured.
It looks great. I mean, look on it. The French even looks great.
Actually, it's the same.
It looks prettier. Yeah.
Yes, way less constants.
Yeah. Way less.
Compared to Hungarian or German.
Just give me a moment.
And there's a funny thing about French vocabulary. Like there are a bunch of stuff what you don't pronounce it, but it's written in the word. And this comes from the Middle Age because the guys, the monks, were writing, they were paid per letter. So they invented a shitload of letters at the end or somewhere in the world because they got more payment. And this is why French ended up with really weird stuff, which is not even pronounced. Nobody takes care of it. But it's like it is.
That's cool to know. Nice.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And
Wild.
how was it in the other countries? Because then they don't get paid by letter, right?
We've
It was in the
actually
middle age.
we're using feminine and masculine in every word just to mess up with you guys. Okay, so now it's
I
there.
think people in Indonesia, they have around 15 genders, which is based on different kind of roles and that stuff. So you not just say male, female, you also say based on like the grandfather gets similar like Japanese. They also have like status included in the language, and it's super important. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you
Anyway,
send also this PDF to the chat, or if it's public?
Yes, I sent you a link.
Cool.
and
Thank you.
Mike, before you restart, can you first describe DREPs again?
Delegated representatives. Yes. So pretty much the reason why there is DREPs is because since stake pool operators are linked to something I would say money incentive, right? Because of the staking mechanism, they produce blocks and they do distribute rewards as well. So in a way to separate the money incentive part from the actual voting part for the way our blockchain works, they separated the DREPs from the SPOs, and the community have to delegate to them in the same way they delegate to stake pool operators, but these are two separate entities. So you delegate your voting power, which is the amount of ADA that you hold, to a DREP, and you also stake to a stake pool if you want to get those rewards from their block production. So the goal of the DREPs is to represent you and your voting power. If you don't want to represent yourself, which you can, if you register yourself as a DREP, you can also be a private DREP if you don't want anybody to delegate to you. And actually, there's 4 things you can do. The first thing is being yourself a DREP and delegate to yourself. The second thing is delegate to a DREP, someone that you know. And the third thing you can do is delegate to something called an automated DREP. An automated abstain, sorry. So this is a DREP that's like part of the ledger that would be pretty much abstain. It would vote abstain, not vote abstain, but be passively abstain, which is something I will explain like right away. And the fourth solution would be to delegate to the no confidence automated DREP. And this DREP will vote no on every governance action except the motion of no confidence, which is an action that's been made to kick out the constitutional committee from power. So if you don't trust these guys, which are at the top of the pyramid, if I can say it like that, you can kick them out, and they have no say in that governance action. So they cannot vote on it. They cannot influence that governance action. Only the stake pool operators and the DREPs can vote on this one. But I'm getting off topic.
In Poker, we call this nomination pool. Same principle. Vic, do you not?
Can you repeat, please? Sorry.
The question is, that sounds really the same like nomination pools. I have my dots and I give it to the Hungarian nomination pool, which has multisig. You are one of the person of the multisig. You and SIG sit together, read the stuff and say, we vote for that, we like that. And then we say, to this proposal, we don't vote for that. And I just go with my dots to you. Is this correct?
Yeah. It's worked like this. Yes.
One main
I
difference
have a
is
question regarding the two-stepping delegation. So you mentioned, Mike, in Cardano, the delegatees can delegate the voting power to other delegates. So there is a multi-step delegation process on Cardano, because on Polkadot there isn't. If I have some voting power from different people to my address, I cannot delegate that voting powers to a third person or a fourth person or a fifth person. So this multiple delegation process doesn't allow it currently on Polkadot. Is it working on Cardano, or will work on Cardano?
No, it doesn't work either, but we're expecting and we're encouraging people to, as a DREP entity, you can have a multi-signature with rules in it. So this means that you can have an organization with multi-signatures and different kinds of expertise in that organization, which will represent one DREP that you can delegate to. And we're pushing very much for that. It's actually very easy to do. Well, no, things that I usually call easy are not necessarily easy, but you can be a multi-signature DREP. And these ones are going to be popular because simply because they are harder to corrupt. As a single person, I can be a DREP, but I'm also, right? I'm it also in danger for corruption. But if you have an entire team or a DAO or a group of people, influential people, then there's less room for that, because having a multi-signature, you can have different rules for that. You can have your own threshold for your own DAO, and crossing that particular threshold, you would be able to vote yes, no, or abstain on a particular governance action. Yeah. And
Thank you.
Should I
Sorry. We have DAOs. In Polkadot, I can name out of the box 3 DAOs. What DAOs are in the Cardano ecosystem, which are fun, cool, and which can shoots in your head right now?
Oh my God. There's a lot.
Summon.
Summon, yes. There's the Summon, which I don't want to say what I'm going to do in future. But yeah, there's Summon. There's 2 member-based organization right now. There's the Intersect. There's also the, oh my God.
Pragma.
Pragma. Thank you. There's Pragma. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to, well, there's things I can say. And there's going to be an organization. Some people are grouping up. That's what I can say. And I might be a part of a DAO, DREP, with some very influential people, and I will have my own expertise to bring to that. And yeah, I mean, the first one that comes to mind were these ones, and I'm sure there's going to be much more. That's for sure, because organizers or DAO DREPs, if I can say it like that, are going to be, I believe, more popular than single DREPs, for that matter.
Which of the DREPs groups that you just mentioned do I like? Is this something like Pragma? Because it's the only name that it sticks. Do I like them? And now there's more the question, do you like them? So just give an opinion on something, then I know, oh, they are cool. Mike's like them, I like them.
They're non-profit. They're non-profit and hardcore open source. So you like them, Frank, and we like them.
I like them. Nice, Felix. That's what I want to hear. Okay, yeah. I like Pragma. Nice. I know now one. That's cool.
That's the old beauty of it. I mean, if you don't like them, you can only represent yourself if you wanted to, and you represent your own voting power, right? Because DREPs and DAO DREPs could be, they could be just a bridge for you if you don't want to participate actively in the voting system, and you don't want to slow things down as well. You just delegate your voting power to someone you trust or someone you like, or the way they vote, right? Or you like the way they vote. So I believe that's what's cool about it. It doesn't restrain anyone, and it doesn't force anyone to delegate their stake. You can just represent yourself if you wanted to, as a public or private DREP.
how much ADA gets used in the voting? Because I know from Polkadot we have the issue that people have that, but they don't delegate this in the governance. So yeah, and I think in Polkadot it's maybe 5% if we are lucky. Maybe Vicky knows more.
In Cardano, we have a major incentive for that. And it's pretty much if you do not delegate to a DREP or if you do not represent yourself as a DREP, you cannot withdraw your rewards from the stake pools.
But the most people, they just buy tokens and think this token goes up. And that's the reason why I have the tokens.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something really important to mention in this regard. Governance on Cardano is incentivized. As voter or as voting representative, you earn rewards for voting. That's a massive difference to Polkadot. Another really important difference as well is you can delegate your staked assets. In Polkadot, staked assets are locked. If I delegate, for example, 100 DOT to a stake pool, I can't use this 100 DOT to vote. Right? They're locked to the pool.
I think this was updated. There was a discussion somewhere.
Currently, dots inside the staking pool cannot use to governance. Yes, exactly. But in future upgrades, I think in this year will be implemented, so it will be solved.
In Cardano, it's fully liquid all the time, every time, always. So you can delegate, you can change your mind, you can move your stake, you can sell it if you want to. And if you do not participate in the voting mechanism, for example, like the example that you mentioned, if you just buy ADA and leave it in your wallet and don't stake to stake pool or anything and don't expect reward, your money is not calculated within the active voting stake. So it's marked as not participating in governance. So it's not considered in those calculations. Only the stake that is staked to active DREPs are considered, which I show in the example here. I made them very extreme because I wanted people to understand the concept. Here you have a total ADA supply of 35 billion. And in this example, which is extreme, there's only 5 DREPs. Each one of them hold 10K ADA. And together, they represent 100% of the active voting stake. And they do hold 20% of the total voting power in this example. But it's pretty
this doesn't make sense. I see 36 billion ADA, and I see 10K staked. 10K staked. Is 10K ADA?
That's 10K ADA. It's just like I said, it's a very extreme example.
Yeah.
It was just to explain the fact.
But then it has to be super small, right? It's just not.
Yes, I know, but I just wanted. Yeah, it's just an example. It's just to explain the concept, because I could have used different amounts and actual real amounts. It was just, I believe it would be harder for people to understand. As soon as you understand this concept, then as we go deeper in the infographic, I make harder example to explain other concepts like inactivity, and because they're all parameters, right? There's the DREP activity parameter, and there's a lot of ruling concerning about each one of those parameters, which are explained in this infographic. Yeah. I just don't want to
Tommy
take
has his hand up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. I wanted to be a silent observer, but I couldn't resist because the guys gave you false information. Basically, what I wanted to correct what was said before is that in Polkadot, you have 2 different kinds of staking. You have the direct staking, and then you have the nomination pool staking. So what they were referring to was the nomination pool staking. So those, if you delegate to a nomination pool, then you cannot use that for governance. But if you directly stake, then of course you can use that for governance.
Tommy, since when? Last year?
Huh?
Since when?
Well, I have my token staked forever, and I'm using the same voting power.
Okay. I have some kind of talk in my head about this upgrade, but I think Vicky already mentioned that this is the upcoming upgrade.
It's the nomination pools that people have been bitching about. Why can't we use that for staking?
That was the drama. I see. Okay.
Oh, you have that too? Awesome. Just kidding.
Always. Like when people are involved, it's always drama. That's in authoritative systems not the case, which is fun. Like nobody's saying anything. Look at Russia.
But let's give Mike some room to explain through this, and then we'll have questions after that.
Yes, about the staking mechanism, you can stake as a delegator. I can stake to a stake pool, and with the same money that I hold, I can delegate my voting power to a DREP, because we wanted again to leave the stake pool staking part as a money incentive, because when you stake to, you have different money incentive, and you have different kinds of reward depending on who you are delegating to, because they have margins, they have minimum pool fees, right? And they, depending on how much they are delegated to, we wanted to toss away the money incentive part from the governance part. So the stake pool operator can vote, but they cannot vote on as many governance action as the DREPs. Like you can see here, I don't know if you see it. On Cardano, there is 7 governance action, different governance actions, and the DREP can vote on them all. And they are the only governance body who can vote on everything, because they are the stewards of the governance. But the stake pool operators, they can only vote on these ones. And these ones doesn't include the treasury withdrawal. So yeah, what I've been asked is, can a stake pool operator be a DREP as well? And the answer is yes, but the stake pool operator cannot use the money that's staked to his stake pool as is DREP delegation. The only thing as a stake pool operator that I can do is I can delegate my own money to myself and try to convince the delegators to delegate to my DREP as well, which I'm just going to leave that to the community at this point, but this could be seen as ethically maybe wrong. I don't know. I'll let them decide. I don't have any say in this. Yeah, so that's about
This would be actually a really quick question. Paul, I saw Paul, you just joined. Can you speak?
Me?
Paul, because he is stake pool operator and he's also voting representative. Paul's from Polkadot, and and you have a kind of, this is something interesting in Polkadot. Very often voting representatives are also stake pool operators.
Hello?
Validated. Yeah, there you are. Hey,
Do
Paul.
you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm in the car, so I probably will not hear me well. Yes, as you said, we are node operators and also like the decentralized voices delegates at this moment. So it's I think it's not a problem, because I think even more decentralized voices delegates are validators or node operators. So as for now, it seems that there is no problem with it. But when there is any conflict of interest, we are supposed to like abstain with our vote, because it obviously will be like not a good way to vote for like proposals you benefit from, right? So there's a limitation in there, but to be just a node operator is not the problem for being in the program in Polkadot.
No, I don't see it as a problem either, because it's the delegators that decide. If they want to delegate to you, then you got your right to vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're a billionaire or whatever. And there is no there's no saturation. That's important to mention. If the community wanted to delegate like 2, 3, 4, 5 billion ADA to me, they can.
Uh-huh.
There's no maximum.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I don't really think that's something they would do if they care about decentralization. But who knows? I don't know what's going to happen on mainnet. It's going to be very interesting.
Mike or Paul, can somebody break down the controversy? Like we have the validators, they have a different name, which I forgot, and we have the DREPs. And sometimes they have like a conflict of interests. That's far as I grasp it. But what is the conflict of interest? Like why DREPs are different than the validators? Or like elaborate the problem of why is it like interesting to think about it if that's good or bad?
Personally, I don't know. If I can tell you my opinion, I wouldn't be too concerned about it because the stake pool operators, we do. I'm gonna say we defend the chain since the beginning, right? Because that's our role. We validate and we use the consensus mechanism to protect the chain, and they do know every protocol parameters, and most of them knows them pretty well and better than anyone else. So they would be probably the right persons to do that as well, but it depends on the community. I'm just saying I'm sharing my own opinion about it, but some people might see it as not
Why is there a
good.
discussion? I don't understand the problem yet. Maybe somebody
Oh,
can
there.
break this down.
Oh,
Because
okay.
like all the words that we are currently having, I heard them 10 minutes ago, so I need a lower level. Like just there's the following part, there's this part. Sometimes there's a conflict, sometimes yeah.
I think the main problem here is the risk to say that ideally, when you have different governance bodies, like in Cardano, we have three different governance bodies, DREPs, SPOs, and the Constitutional Committee. And ideally, we want to say each group has their own perspective, interests, and a certain balanced dominance, right? When we see now, okay, we have three groups, but two of them are actually one group because all the DREPs are also SPOs, then we couldn't separate maybe this interest, and these two groups, which become now one, can dominate, let's say, the agenda, maybe, right? So in this regard, also in a good point, right? Because on the technical sense, you can say we have to rely on this. We need them. They are our experts. They are most valued asset, right? But they can also drive it into direction to, let's say, technological dictatorship, right? A little bit. It's everything
Yes.
so technical and so abstract. Nobody actually can even understand their proposals, only themselves. That you run them into a political environment, which is highly specified to a very specific group of people only. And you don't have this diversity of perspective and governance.
But the main issue that we discussed was like the separation of power, so that three different entities and they're all balancing each other. And entity one is also a highly entity two, and the other way around. But it should be seen as separate to keep the power in balance. The same what the state does with executive, legislative, and the other part.
Oh,
This,
yes.
yeah.
No, it's just because, sorry, I didn't precise that. The stake pool operators, it's not one stake pool operator, one vote. The way it works is that the stake pool operator's voting power is the amount of ADA that is staked to their stake pool. So a fully saturated pool is going to have, for example, 70 million of voting power, while a smaller stake pool that would have probably like, I would say, I don't know, for example, 500,000 ADA stake to this stake pool would have 500,000 voting power as a stake pool operator. So it's not technically the same power that you have over your voting mechanism as a stake pool operator than you have as a DREP, for example, right? Because you do vote with the money that is staked to your stake pool.
Mhm.
So that would be the difference. So in this example here, I show it like I tried to oversimplify it, but what represents 100% of the active voting stakes, where the threshold calculation comes in, represents the amount of ADA staked to stake pool only. Every ADA that is unstaked or staked to retired stake pool doesn't count towards it is marked as not participating in governance, so it doesn't enter into the calculation. So for example, here we have 21 billion ADA stake to stake pool that represent 100% of the voting power of the stake pool operators, and they use this ADA that is staked to them to vote on these specific governance actions here, which differs from the DREPs, because the DREPs, they have no saturation. So since stake pools operator are limited to 70, I'm just making numbers easy, but 70 million ADA, you would reach your saturation point as a stake pool operator unless you go multiple pool, but I'm not going to get in there. But that would represent technically the maximum voting power that you could get as a single pool. While as a DREP, you could have more, but it's separated voting power, because as an ADA holder, I can use my ADA and stake to stake pool and provide him voting power as well as for the DREPs. So if I hold as a stake as an ADA holder, I hold 50,000 ADA. I can delegate 50,000 ADA to the stake pool and the same amount to a DREP.
I have another question. That's basically, how do I create a stake pool? I have now, my life goal is to create a stake pool. So where I go, what I have to do, and Vicky's dream goal is, life goal is to create a DREP, where he has to go, which button he has to click, and then we are super happy. So we have these two entities, how to create entity 1 and how to integrate entity 2. That would be cool.
I do have a lot of link for you if you, if you want me to well, actually, if you I'll preach for the chore and I'll tell you to go on my website. I have infographic explaining everything you just mentioned.
You can go now to your website and show me, because I'm generally really curious about like where I have to go. Like, I love the concepts, the same like in Polkadot. I just love the concept, but in the end, it doesn't help if I know all about the governments, but I don't know, like, okay, what is the actual website? It's Polka Assembly. That's the answer. It's Polka Assembly or Subsquare. Oh, there's what the thing's happening. All the concepts are built in this, and then I press this button. Like the same with voting. In the end, I make an X and call it a day. Yeah.
Okay, so nice. I'll go back to the homepage. So you go to, you shouldn't go there first, but that would be my first stop, the able-pool.io, right? And you go on up there, there's a tab named document. And this is all the infographics that I made. And you can choose either Arabic, Bulgarian, Italian, Spanish, French, which is my original language, or English. And here, you do have access to every single command from the Cardano CLI that you can. I think
Felix yesterday showed me, and then I downloaded the Cardano CLI to spin up a node test net. And then we got distracted, but it still lives somewhere. Oh, okay. So everything is through the Cardano CLI, right?
Well, not entirely, but as there's so many ways you can build a stake pool. There's the guild operator who actually they made script, like you can just run it and let it go, right? But I like to understand what I'm doing behind the scene, right? And in these documents, you have access, like I showed you, there's the cheat sheet where you can see every single CLI command and each one of their flags for each command. And if you don't understand them, which would be totally normal, you do have the Cardano CLI study sheet, and the part 1 explain every single thing you should know about those commands. And I made them for normies because I consider myself as a normie. And You see, the part 1 explains everything about the keys, the address, and the delegation. So you can build your own wallet. You can use those commands, and it explains the private key and the
We go now a
verification
little bit
part.
off topic, but can I
Yeah,
do everything through the Cardano CLI? Is this
yes,
true?
yes.
Oh, that's super sweet.
You
Was not
can
aware of
do
that.
stake pools. You can create your wallet. You can create Franken wallet. There's so many things you can do. You can create your DREP. You can be a constitutional committee with it. You can vote with it. You can, oh my God, you can, actually, I could.
And when I want to spin up a website which makes it normal people to use, then
No, you can't.
I will,
There's
but I
nothing
could,
about creating a
but I can
website.
make a backend service which just does the thing.
A what?
A backend service, like I have the binary on the server and somebody presses a button, then it calls a command, I get an output and sends this back to the user.
You're talking about Cardano now?
Yes,
Or...
because that's a CLI, that's a command. So, but we
Yes.
lose track of the topic.
Yeah, but there's rule about stateful operation that there's keys that you need to, there's evolutive keys that you need to recreate after a certain amount of time. There's some rules that you can't like just bypass with script, but you know, that's
yeah, I see. I was just like, oh, that's a terminal. I can use that. And then I was like, yeah, but I forgot we are on blockchain. We have keys. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, you can make it simple, but there's, yeah, I don't want to get too much into that, but we could have a chat in private if you want to. I'll explain it to you.
Yeah, setting up a stake pool is going to be harder than becoming a DREP. DREP is becoming a DREP is as simple as staking to a stake pool, pretty much, in my understanding.
So if I want to create a DREP, where I go, what are the websites that are available to create these services?
There you go.
I was hoping you would ask that. My favorite website, that's the easiest way to be a DREP, right? Which would be sancho.gov.tools. This one, which is going to load very soon. Okay, there. Do you still see it?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's this one. On this website, of course, we're not on mainnet. We're not on mainnet yet. So this one's going to use the testnet that we use for governance, which is called the Sancho net. And if you go into fact here, you can just you have access to the old documentation. You can go to getting started and you get a compatible wallet. And these two, Eternal and uniFi, which works great, they are browser wallet that you can use to be a DREP on SanchoNet. So you could just, I think I do have one here. So you just install it as a browser extension.
I have Eternal currently.
Eternal, awesome. Okay, so this one is Eternal Beta though, because it is for SanchoNet, as you can see at the bottom right here, right? And I do have a wallet. I do have a Sancho wallet right here. So what I can do is I can just click here, and then I get back to the SanchoNet website here, and you connect to it. You connect it to it just like that, Eternal, and that's it. You have access to everything, almost everything, right?
And now I'm looking for the create button.
What's that?
I'm looking for create DREP.
Yeah, mine is already registered here, but you can. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, I could unregister it. That's that's a DREP wallet. So yeah, you can create a DREP. Then what it does on chain is that it's creating DREP credentials for you, and also it's registering the DREP on chain with your DREP ID. And with that ID, you can share that ID if you want people to delegate to you. This would be similar to your stateful ID, pretty much. And as soon as you're registered, you have to delegate to yourself because it's not done automatically. So you have the delegation here, which I've done already. I delegated to myself, but you have to do it, or else you won't have any voting power. And when you create a DREP, you do control your payment keys, but they're not the same. So you have to, in a way, delegate to yourself, to the DREP ID you just created. And when this is done, you can go on the governance section tab and vote as a DREP on the actual governance section. For example, here we have an update to Constitution governance section. So if you want to go see it, you just click on it. And it provides the, I'm just getting deep again, but
I have an example. There is the uniFires proposal. This got voted as accepted. And we do this via idea scale, or we have currently another proposal. So, but this, I thought everything is off-chain. So does this lives on-chain or is this off-chain data?
The governance section is on chain. All the protocol parameters are on chain. When you vote and you want to provide a rationale for your vote, for your delegators, because you obviously want to explain why you vote yes, no, or abstain, the rationale lives off chain. So you have to provide a URL to a metadata that is your rationale, and you have to provide a hash that is going to validate that you don't change your rationale during the actual vote or after.
But I can use a Google Docs link that doesn't change, and I can change it all the time.
No, well, no, it's a hash of the metadata itself. The file.
But if the metadata is a link to a Google Docs.
No, you can't provide a link as a metadata. It's the
I see. Okay.
It's the JSON file. I'm not explaining it well because I'm sorry, I'm translating as I talk, but that's I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a JSON file, and it's the hash of the JSON file. So if you change just a dot in it, you won't get the same hash. And if I, as a DREP, have to vote on something that doesn't have the same submitted hash than the actual file, then there's no way I will vote yes on this, because for me, it is invalid. It is not even to be considered because I'm looking at something that's like not what it's supposed to be. Yeah.
Oh, you signed. Yeah. So, Frank, you mentioned that the uniFires proposal was funded through, you're questioning where it was funded through, and it's funded through Catalyst, Project Catalyst. Now, Project Catalyst has a side chain called Jormungandr, and it does store a bunch of all of the idea scale data offline, not on chain. This stuff, this is for future. Now, all of it's on testnet right now. Now, Project Catalyst will be one treasury withdrawal per fund from this tool through this mechanism. And then how we got funded through uniFires is like a whole separate process with its own mechanism and whatnot. But all the ADA has the same amount of weight and whatnot in the Catalyst voting system as well.
So you're saying that going forward, each fund will be like a bounty in Polkadot.
Yeah.
Right.
The Catalyst fund is going to have to be founded first through a governance action to do a treasury withdrawal on chain, which is layer 1. And people will have to vote on this. And they're going to have to make a pass for Catalyst project to get that money to then found the proposers within the Catalyst project.
So we can kill Catalyst. Yay.
It is possible. It is possible.
Definitely. You have multiple catalysts.
It, but everyone has his opinion. I would vote yes on stuff like that, but you can vote no. That's your right.
Hey, I have a question about something you said 10 minutes ago. The delegating voting power to yourself, it makes absolutely no logical sense. What is the reasoning behind that? And another question, like in Polkadot, like if you have tokens, you can vote with your tokens. You don't need to delegate the power to yourself, right? So that's one question. And then the other one is, does it automatically adjust if you get more ADA? Like if you get 5 ADA more, does it add to your voting power, or do you again need to delegate that to yourself?
It's the entire wallet. So since it's liquid, if you had money to your wallet, you had voting power to the one that you delegate. If you remove money from your wallet, then after the snapshot, the DREP that you delegated to, if it's yourself or somebody else, will lose that power as well. Because fundamentally, Cardano will always be liquid like this. And delegating to yourself, it's more like a technical aspect of the thing, because your money in Cardano, it sits in an address that's controlled by payment credentials and stake credential. And when you create a DREP credential, you have to tell the blockchain itself that this money belongs to it, because it doesn't know by default.
Okay.
So this is the logic behind delegating to yourself, because you have, in a way, to tell the blockchain, like, yeah, this DREP is me. It's not somebody else. So this is the reason why you have to.
Do you have origins? Do you have origins and tracks?
What's that?
Do you have origins and tracks? Like, can you decide that I want to take care of voting for Project Catalyst stuff, but when it comes to root level changes on the blockchain, I don't want to deal with that. I let Felix handle them.
Actually, on this is quickly maybe giving some more context on this as on Polkadot side. So in Cardano, we have these 3 bodies, ideally, right? DREPs, SPOs, and Constitutional Committee. In Polkadot, you have the voters, active voters, or voting representatives, though there's the fellowship as well. When it comes, for example, to protocol changes, they won't go, for example, the same mechanism, the same system, and the same decision-making system as a proposal which asks for grants, for example. There you have your own decision-making group, which is the fellowship themselves. And as I understand right, there's their own decision-making process there actually, which is in parallel, but not exact the same as for, let's say, a grant proposal.
No, Felix, the only thing that the fellowship can do is to like make things happen faster.
But isn't it that for roots?
Open up Subsquare and just show the website, then you see this 4 bars, 4 tabs, and this is just the stuff what Felix just explained, called Subsquare, and there you see a root track, and only specific people are allowed to vote on root tracks. And then there's a fellowship and a technical fellowship things, and only specific people are allowed and to get there. And then there are people who get voted to vote on things there. You have different tracks have different responsibilities, and yeah, that was kind of the main gist.
This was just to give a context on Polkadot, because when you go here, we have, for example, this parameter changes, right, Mike? Can you go on the like
where do you
who
want
can when you go up? Exactly, and there scroll down to the DREP voting threshold.
Okay.
To the actions, what I can do.
Oh, yes. So there's like I said, the thing is, there is 7 governance action on Cardano, but you do have more thresholds than the actual number of actions, because there's one action that is called the protocol parameter update that has 4 groups of protocol parameter. There's the governance group here, which is every single protocol parameter that you see here. All of them: governance action lifetime, committee max term length, DREP activity, the deposits, governance action deposit, because there's a deposit for your action when you submit it, the community minimum size, a lot of governance, well, not actually, a lot of protocol parameters. And there is the economic group, which would include the treasury expansion protocol parameter, the monetary expansion as well, how much gets out of the reserve. that are included into a block. For example, the treasury expansion would be the treasury cut that's been taken from that reward. The networking group, which includes the maximum block body size and those technical stuff about the blocks, right? Maximum transaction size, minimum fee B, the constant and the linear minimum fees for a transaction, for example, and the technical group, which would include some parameters like the numbers of pool, which controls the saturation point of the pool, and the pledge influence, for example, like as a stake pool operator, you have to provide a pledge, an amount of money that you yourself agree not to go under because it is liquid. You could, but if you do go under that number, you still produce block, but you don't produce reward anymore from it. So that's about the protocol parameter. I just summarized it. The update to constitution is a governance action to make change on the constitution, the rulings of the blockchain. And it's important to mention that the constitution, the constitutional committee, they have a role. There are not so many, but they do have a role. And their only role is to decide if a governance action is constitutional or not. In my opinion, because that's my opinion, and that's the way it should be, I believe, they have no say in all those dramas about should we do this or should we do that. Does the governance action follow what's written in the Constitution? If the answer is yes, I vote yes. If the answer is no, I vote no. If I'm not sure about it and I don't want to get involved for whatever reason, I vote abstain. That's the role. So there's the governance action to change the constitution. You want to change those rules as an ADA holder because anybody can submit a governance action. It's not restricted to DREP's SPO or constitutional committee. As an ADA holder, even if you're not a DREP, an SPO, or a constitutional committee member, you can submit governance action on chain. And people will vote on it, pretty much. There's the hard fork initiation, and that shouldn't be confused with the, with the update itself, because as an SPO, let's say I want to add input endorser rules and stuff on chain. So I make an upgrade. Every SPO take the upgrade, and as soon as you're ready to initiate the hard fork, this is when you're going to vote yes on this action. And the only way for it to pass is to have the SPO threshold cross, the DREP threshold cross as well, which is probably not the same threshold percentage, and the constitutional committee threshold as well. So you need those three bodies to vote yes, enough to cross the threshold for a hard fork initiation to happen on chain.
The latest hard fork has a name. What is the name?
Chang, the one that's coming for governance?
Yeah.
It's going to be the Chang hard fork. It should be within June or July. Still not sure about it, but
what was the previous hard fork?
Oh,
like I try to find the theme. Usually, when we speak about hard forks in blockchain, we have themes like London, or then we have Berlin, or something like that. That's Ethereum.
I think it was Vassal, but I might be wrong. I'm almost sure it was the Vassal hard fork, but I hope I'm not wrong. I'm gonna have to check that.
Is there a theme?
Yeah.
What?
A theme for the hard forks. Yeah, usually
Yeah, there's
people,
always a theme, yeah.
For example, on the for example, Cheng hard fork, this have been people who engaged a lot in Cardano ecosystem, who left a really good fingerprint. Both of them dead, and we allocate and Cardano said, "Good, let's name them like this," or if not related to yeah. But usually, yeah, they have things.
Oh, cool, nice. Okay, I see.
So we have treasury withdrawals. I mean, you know what it is. The treasury can be tracked actually on the layer one, on the blockchain, and the ledger itself, the ledger state. And it's a governance action to directly withdraw from it. So there's no third party or somebody validating the thing. If it passes, the money is sent to the addresses that you mentioned on the governance section itself. So it is fully layer one. What else? Yeah, there's two thresholds. This one is a little tricky. Oops, sorry. Wrong picture. My bad. So the committee, that's an interesting one. The committee update governance section has two thresholds. And first, I'll just summarize the update committee governance action can only be voted by DREPs and stake pool operators. The constitutional committee cannot vote on it because it's a governance action that is meant to decide if you want to remove one of them or add one of them or change their threshold, their voting threshold. You have the power to change that, but they have no say about it. And there is two states for the constitutional committee. There's a normal state when everything goes fine and the blockchain works well and there's no drama, things like that, right? Everything goes normal. So there's a threshold to elect constitutional committee members or remove them when the committee state is on normal state. And they have a threshold when they are in a no confidence state. And they fall in a no confidence state when you manage to ratify a motion no confidence governance action. And this is the governance action when you pretty much want to just kick them out, like all of them.
Do you have a story on your hand? Like usually you have some kind of a proposal that's a little bit hidden, but it seems quite few, nobody looks at it. And then like in the end of proposal, somebody sees what they actually try to do. And then a lot of people call a lot of people, let's say, let's vote no, because this is not cool. And then in the last day, basically, a lot of people get called and then this thing drops because something appeared that was not right. Some drama. Do we have some drama? Maybe Felix has some drama.
Yeah, I can bring some drama.
Yeah.
I'm expecting drama to go around the fact that if we don't reach threshold, but we go like super tight, close to cross it, but it doesn't cross it, then you're going to get your drama right there. But the thing is, the governance action on Cardano doesn't drop. They go, if people don't vote yes on them, you don't get enough yes, they will eventually expire as soon as they reach their governance action lifetime. So they do have a lifetime in Epoch. And if you don't vote yes, if you vote actively no on it, they don't get dropped. They just eventually expire because not voting, and this is a tricky one, so I hope you listen, not voting at all has the same weight as a no vote on Cardano. So if you do not vote, it is calculated as a no vote because for DREPs and SPOs and constitutional committee, there is no quorum. There is no minimum amount of vote that you should have for the vote to be valid. So they leverage that by making a passive no, that if myself, I do not vote on anything or do anything, it is seen as a no. So you have to counterbalance the no by default with yes votes until you reach the threshold. I just hope I explained this well.
I think it's pretty similar to how it works in Polkadot because we have the approval and support separately.
All right. Well, we tried to push for quorum, right? A minimum amount of vote. And we can, I kind of like the idea of a no going against the yes, but that's not the way it works right now. That's just like I mentioned before. Yeah. So
before we jump to the next, we had some years ago, we had the thing where we changed to 0. We said, okay, now we have 1 0 less. Basically, everybody has the same amount of dots, but we just deleted the 0. I think that was on Kusama. When I want to make the same proposal, we just want to delete a 0. Instead of the 18 zeros balance, we just have 17. And we can vote on that. Is this an update to Constitution? vote?
I'm not sure I understand that zero story.
I try to imagine a story that was happening and was kind of important and needed big majority in Polkadot. And now when I want to do the same on Cardano, where on the tracks it follows. And I think this would follow an upstate constitution, right?
Depends on what you want to change. If you want to change a protocol parameter, it is not something that's necessarily written in the constitution. The protocol parameter change, it's all done layer one. The voting is layer one, and the protocol change is done automatically on layer one as well. But the constitutional committee can vote on those actions. And if they don't follow the constitution, like if you want to have a block size 0, for example, you would obviously break the chain. So that would be unconstitutional. So there's nothing holding you from submitting an action that's going to do that. And if it passes, it's going to break the chain. But as it is unconstitutional, the constitutional committee will obviously vote no on your action, and it won't pass. It will just reach expiration, and then you'll get your money back from the deposit. Again, no slashing, nothing. The only consequences of doing, I'll say, bad governance action would be that the deposit is high enough to be annoying, because that deposit doesn't generate reward from staking. So you lose the reward from the amount that you deposited for your governance action. If it doesn't pass, it's going to take a while before you get that money back. But if it does pass, it could pass the very first epoch that you submitted. If everyone's for it, they could just like make it pass right away. And if it's ratified right away, you get your money back right away. Yeah, that's explained just a little lower here. Again, I just like make it quick, but that's what it says here.
Another one to Peter, maybe, because he answered the last one regarding to it. Like, there's Catalyst. Catalyst is kind of a side thing, and we got funded through Catalyst. And currently, what we are discussing is not Catalyst. Is this correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, but Catalyst is also governance.
Catalyst is an early form of governance experimentation on Cardano.
I see.
But it's mostly an innovation fund, and it should be looked at as some type of innovation engine that could be duplicated, propagated. Another group could spin up another innovation fund now that there are other options to withdraw chunks of ADA from the treasury. Historically, IOG has withdrawn Catalyst funds for Catalyst with the 5 Genesis keys that they hold, 5 out of the 7, and after the Chang hard fork, those keys will no longer work for that, and anyone else can, just like the IOG Catalyst team, request a chunk of ADA as a treasury withdrawal from this mechanism that Mike's sharing with us, and then have a fund.
The next hard fork brings a really systematic change into the system, right? Like, because before that it's currently held by the 5 Genesis keys, most likely.
7.
And now with the next one, basically it passes on to the system, and then let the community be more involved.
Yeah.
Also with power, like
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
It is 7 keys. 7 keys that are being held by Cardano Foundation, Emergo, and IOG. As soon as we get into the Chang hard fork, they will be like deprecated, useless on chain. And this mechanism is going to be what decides of what's going to happen with treasury withdrawal and everything about the chain itself.
Do they make also an NFT out of it? Gavin Wood, I heard yesterday, makes an NFT of his Ethereum paper. So
we should make an NFT of putting all those 7 keys into the uniFire.
But this is the graveyard.
Frank,
I would,
yeah,
I would auction them. I would auction them as like vintage of what was
You-
formerly.
7 useless pseudo keys.
I'd buy something like that. Look at that! I got my Genesis key from the former rulers of the blockchain.
Yeah, I can imagine there is kind of a crazy, like there is kind of a wild demand from some specific people. Yeah. And the same with the paper, which I heard yesterday, which I thought like, okay, they want to grab some money, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
I still finding I still find this amazing that they're actually like finally giving the power to the community, to the people, because I know that it might look like the constitutional committee have the old governance power, but this is not the case. The D-reps hold the entirety of the power of this governance mechanism, because if the constitutional committee doesn't do their job properly, they have the power to get them out. The D-reps are the only entity that can vote on everything, and the community decides who gets the power and who does not. And the funny part about it, that's something I didn't mention. If I submit, if as a D-rep, for example, here, if as a D-rep, I vote yes on the governance action during the epoch N+1, and it reach its threshold, and it's going to pass for sure. But the community that delegated their ADA to me don't agree with that. They can move their stake. And it's not like stake pool operators. When I move my stake away from a stake pool operator, it takes 2 epoch of snapshot to be considered as not in their pool. But for D-reps, if I move my stake away, the very same epoch boundary, my delegation gets away from that D-rep. And I can, depending on how much power I got, I can change the game. I can change the delegation and manage to make that governance action not pass if I don't agree with my D-rep as the community, because it's liquid. It's not locked. I just like, okay, no, I don't like what you did. I'm going to delegate to Peter. That's it. It's done. It's considered right away a epoch boundary during the calculation of the voting. Right away. That was it.
Can you explain to me? I haven't been really following on the intersect stuff and all these MBOs. So you mentioned there's more than one MBO.
Yes.
So are these MBOs going to be like D-reps, or what is their role?
No, it's a member-based organization. The members actually, there's no how can I say that? There's nothing telling like who or what group's going to be D-rep. We'll know when it's on mainnet. And
Anybody can be.
Anybody can be a D-rep. You don't need, there's no prerequisite. You don't have to fill a form and follow specific rules. If I want to be a D-rep,
So what is an MBO?
A member-based organization.
Well, what do they do?
Oh my God, does a lot of stuff. For example, I'm in a working group. There's different working group within Intersect, and I'm in the governance protocol parameter working group. So our group, what we do is that we gave recommendation on what would be the first governance protocol parameter values when we get on the chain arc fork. So if you have somebody to complain against because you don't like those values, it would be me and maybe 5 other persons for governance. I hope you're going to be satisfied. Anyway, there's different working groups and it's open for everyone, every members. You just have to pretty much, I think, submit on their website, and they're just going to get you in their Discord. And if you want to participate, you can actively participate. There's no gatekeeping stuff, right? You just like, I want to participate in the governance for example, Parameter Group, then you can just ask and we'll get you in. And I know there's different groups. I can't name them all because there's a lot. There's the open source working group. There's the DREP working group. There's the and they all have their specific jobs. And if there's a job that doesn't exist, you can actually create one. Like recently, we I think they started the marketing working group. So their role is to work on doing marketing, which we really lack of. But that's an example.
Where I can see a list of these groups?
Just
Their
posted in
website?
live chat. Just look on the Zoom live chat. I just posted.
These are all groups inside of.
Oh, Discord. I see. Nice.
This is all groups inside of Intersect because that's the way this member-based organization does its thing. And anyone can create another member-based organization if they wanted to with their sets of rule. And if you want to be a member, I'm guessing you have to go through their rules.
A
we're hoping
member-based
to.
organization holds no power. They just make recommendations, right?
Yes, exactly. They don't hold any sorts of power in the governance specifically. No, it's just it's layer one. The ADA is the power. So the blockchain doesn't make the difference between Intersect, Catalyst, or Joe or Alice. It's just stake weight.
But there's one tricky point on this, right? Because, for example, Intersect currently owns the Cardano repositories, right?
Yeah, they switched it to him.
Exactly. So they kind of have a quite strong asset there, right? And at the end, for example, if stuff gets updated, it would come down to Intersect then actually.
No, not necessarily, because as an SPO, I get to decide if I take the upgrade or no. And it actually happened. I can tell you the story right now. I think that was during just right before the Vassal hard fork. I don't know if you remember that. Maybe Peter does, but there's a glitch that actually stalled the entire legacy blockchain. That's the way we call it right now. The legacy testnet broke. Like we got to, I think there was like 70 million slot, and then bam, no more blocks, no more nothing, and it stalled. And it was the testnet. I mean, that's what it's for. But anyway, and that was after we did the upgrade on the testnet. And then Charles brought the idea like, okay, everything's ready, take the upgrade, we're going to do the hard fork. And us as SPOs, we said, no, fuck no.
I remember very well.
Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, but he was pissed. He was pissed because he obviously didn't have control over his own blockchain. If we as SPO don't take the upgrade, it's not going to happen. You want to push an hard fork, good luck. It's not going to happen. Or you're going to break your own blockchain if you do, because we didn't take the upgrade. So we still have a say as an SPO, which is why we're included there. If we don't take the upgrade, obviously I'm not going to vote yes on a hard fork initiation. But if I do take the upgrade, I'm not going to vote yes until I believe the chain is ready for it. So I can take the upgrade. I can be the first one. But if we have like 15% of the SPOs who took it, I'm obviously going to not going to vote yes to make the hard fork because I'm going to break things. So I'll wait till we get 85%. But the reason is this repository has been transferred to Intersect, but that doesn't mean after Chang hard fork that Intersect is going to be the only builders of the nodes. And there's actually a new node that's coming. I don't know if you heard about it. That's actually the guys from Pragma that are working on this, and it's going to be a new node built on Rust, I think, right? I'm just not sure about this, but yes.
It's Rust, yeah.
And it could actually happen. So me as an SPO could eventually have to decide which upgrade I take. And they will have no say. I mean, if I want to take this upgrade, yeah, sure, I'll take it. And then if I eventually want to initiate a hard fork with this upgrade, then I'll take this one.
So are you saying that they will be Haskell Cardano and Rust Cardano?
Yes. Yes.
That's super cool because then I can insert a nice "Hello Frank" somewhere in the Rust repo and ask if they want to include that. Would be super nice.
Well, you
Make
can
a
already
nice
make
ASCII art or somewhere, like just hidden. Ask them nicely, please include this. And they say no, and I say please.
well,
Anyways,
Haskell is it's a pretty safe language, right? And we already have smart contracts with Rust. If you use Aiken, which is I think almost like everyone use it now, it's very straightforward. I'm not going to say it's necessarily easy, but it's easier. in
that's the icon language, and that's like what Mark teaches me currently. And it's really similar to Rust, but like it has more. Like
Yeah,
Rust is heavily inspired by Haskell because it's functional style first, which comes from people. They come from Java or C Sharp, a little bit unusual. But yeah, you see the patterns are everywhere, and with the icon language, it's just way more functional. But Rust allows is super nice, and if I look at the syntax and the keywords, it's built in Rust and has some Rusty syntax. Yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, but you have to know the datum and the stuff internals, which is a little bit tricky. But
yeah, the rules of the blockchain itself are still the same.
it's just a little bit different. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I could just I could mention some more about it. I just don't know if it was supposed to be an hour, right? I knew it was gonna happen. I talked too much. I'm sorry.
No, it's so good. I really love this conversation. It's really good.
Yeah,
It was good.
Yeah, just keep going. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm Canadian, right? So you expect me to say at least like sorry 5 times in every phrase I say. Sorry about it.
Did you just apologize for apologizing?
He did. I think
Yes,
yeah.
that's Canadian. That's awesome, actually.
Are you
we're
from
nice.
Quebec? I know French, and you say sorry. So, are you from Quebec?
You're from Quebec, you said?
Yeah, you are not from Quebec, right?
Yes, I am.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I live there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like I'm in Montreal actually.
Oh, nice. That's a cool city, by the way. We like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Yeah. So do you want me to keep going, or are we stop now, or just?
Let's continue.
Yeah.
Half an hour more, something like that. Everybody, yes.
Are you good with that?
Sounds good to me. If you have time, Mike.
Yes.
Yeah, I do. I
Up to
always have
Mike.
time. I don't sleep. I'm supposed to sleep. Fuck it. I'm having too much fun.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the control committee. Yeah, of course. The way they vote. It's pretty simple. It's like one member, one vote. So if there are 8 of them, right, and 2 of them go abstain, they don't get considered when they vote abstain, but they have to actively vote abstain if they don't want to get considered into the vote. So in this situation here, you see that 2 of them go abstain, and the rest of them, they all have the same power, which would be 16.6% if there's 6 of them, for a total of 100%. And I mentioned here that this guy here abstained from voting. So he didn't do anything. He just stayed there. He didn't vote, but he is considered as a no, right? And I've put a little threshold here. So
nice. And the abstain votes, the people who are grayed out, those people actually like said, I abstain. And then right?
The abstain mechanism is special because I'm going to show it here as an example. I think it's important here. If you see this guy here in the example with the 20%, right? The 50K, this guy goes abstain. So as he's going abstain, he gets out of the voting mechanism. So what happens here is that by doing that, the 4 that's left active gets more power. So it's like lowering the market cap of voting power.
Yeah, it lowers the threshold needed essentially.
Nope.
By it doesn't lower the threshold but it reduces the size of the pool considered to reach the threshold, right?
Yes, yes. The threshold is easier to reach, but when you go abstain, you help as much the yes vote than the no vote. So as you can see here, he had 20%, and this is why I use those numbers to make sure that it's understandable. His 20% is equally redistributed to each one of them, the yes and the no, which give 75% to the yes vote, and it passes, and it gives 25% to the no vote. And it's also, I made it this way also for people to understand that if instead this guy would have voted yes, then the yes part would have had 80% of the votes instead of 75%, which also show that when you go abstain, you help as much the no than the yes. So when you go abstain, you don't want to get involved, but you don't care about the outcome of the vote.
Makes sense to me.
And it is the same for each of those three bodies.
And what decides on 50-50?
50-50 what?
50-50 would be below the threshold, I feel like.
Uh-oh. Someone broke a plate. Yeah. Sorry. I think someone's gonna get downstairs.
Just your wife slowly crushing it all, and you say, "Walk less."
Yeah, I know. So I was 30 more minutes. Let's pray for his family.
Okay. Yeah. My daughter just got downstairs. She's like, Daddy, something happened. So yeah, you broke a plate. Yeah. Yeah, they're all right. If everyone's all right, I'm good. I'll just
I
clean the
hope she
mess.
votes actively.
So yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, if it's 50-50, you don't cross the threshold, of course. The threshold itself, it's an updatable value. You can change that value, which is why it's mentioned here. That's a protocol parameter. So every governance action has its own threshold for DREPs. It has its own threshold for SPOs, but the control committee have one threshold for everything. And it is not a protocol parameter. You have to specify it in the update committee governance action. So me, myself, I want to change their threshold, but I don't want to remove or add a control committee member. I can make a governance action, update committee, and only change the threshold. And the SPOs and the DREPs will decide what will be the control committee threshold for every governance actions. They have no say in it.
Okay, so what I wanted to ask before, but I don't think you understood the question because you don't know how Polkadot works,
Okay.
was that if the treasury withdrawal, for example, if there's a 50 ADA treasury withdrawal proposal and there's a 5 billion ADA treasury withdrawal proposal, do they have the same threshold? Is it as easy or hard to pass it?
Yes.
Okay, so in Polkadot, it's different. It's harder to get bigger things done.
The thing is, on the Constitution, there's rules about depending on the amount that you want to withdraw. If you want to withdraw 15 ADA, you get no problem. People will vote on it. They probably have a good laugh because it's actually like probably 50 times less than the reward that you would get because of your deposit, but it's your choice. But if you want to get billions, you would also have to provide an audit in your rationale, like explaining exactly what you intend to do that. And there's also ruling about having to how can I say it? I'm sorry, I have it in French in my head. Like an investigation by an independent body about what you're gonna do with it. Like I don't remember by heart the specific rules in the Constitution, but there's something about this. And if you don't do that, if you don't provide those rationales and those reasoning and those investigation requirements, then it would be seen as unconstitutional and the Constitutional Committee will vote against it. So if you follow the rules for this,
billion ADA, I think nobody has a proposal for billion ADA, right? That was
well, so far I'm guessing not, but there is over a billion. There's 1.4, 1.5 billion in the treasury as we speak. If you do the query.
Is it?
Yep.
That's
Yeah,
a
there's
lot.
that. It's a
Wow.
lot, and it's pretty
it
cool
makes
actually.
no okay, that's not a good question. I will come back later.
So basically, the best outcome of this is that all the grifters from Polkadot, they come to Cardano.
More money, more problem. Yeah.
More drama, more drama. Yeah, some people are afraid of the drama. I'm like, yeah, just let it happen. It's cool. It's going to be interesting. As long as you're not, on the battlefield, it's all right. I mean, you just observe, and I'm not going to say I like drama, but I like constructive debates. And sometimes people, they tend to mix them up. And I know some people that can actually have positive debates about things, even if they disagree with each other.
Right.
And some people, they just go insane and fucking like, blah, blah, blah. But I try to stay
Yeah,
away from those guys.
for
I
sure.
don't get
So,
involved in those kind of
quick
things.
question.
Yeah.
You mentioned this need for an audit of treasury withdrawals greater than some number. Is there what's the number? If you're more than 150,000 ADA, you need some audit or whatever. Do you
I'm
know what
just
that is?
gonna say that this year we're gonna have workshops to
Okay.
build the constitution, because there is an interim
Okay.
constitution, but it's not the final. It's just the one, for the first hard fork. But the community will decide of what will be the constitution, what should be those rules and the guardrails for each protocol parameters to actually know what's good and
Right.
what's bad, right?
So that's
it's
still to TBD. And
yeah,
there's some event, I feel like end of the year in Argentina or something like that that culminates to
yes,
a whole like an IRL event that essentially finalizes and then publishes the Cardano Constitution.
it's going to be a big event, but I'm not entirely sure it's going to be officially decided there.
There. Okay.
Because again, it's just presumption. I'm not sure, right? Because I think the community is going to have to decide and vote in some way. So if it's like decided there with only the people attending there, then it could be seen as gatekeeping.
Yeah. Well,
So
they'll probably propose one and the hype cycle
Yeah.
will carry it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, what else? There's so much to say. I don't want to
Yeah.
take 3 hours, right?
Yeah, no.
But it's there. If you want to look at the graphic, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and just like DM me. I always answer DMs when I don't sleep, or well, I don't sleep too much. So if it takes 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours for me to answer, then you know I'm sleeping.
What I think is really interesting is already because there are a lot of similarities, yet different terms in Polkadot and Cardano. For example, the different groups or routes and tracks with multiple processes with multiple ways actually how stuff gets done. And like what I think is really interesting on Polkadot side where I learn a lot is that they looked a lot on the cultural part already. Right. For example, what really fascinated is this fellowship project, for example, where you have it's around right now more than 70 contributors, like hardcore engaged community members from Polkadot on the tech side. So
Yeah.
like you, for example, a really hardcore developer, and they are in the fellowship program. And fellowship program is kind of that they maintain the core protocol actually, right? Update things and stuff and whatnot, just maintaining a bunch of core technology. And this is really interesting because there's a format it's level based and it takes 17 years to, I think, as I understood it, to achieve the highest rank actually. And they said, oh, okay, and it's funded, and this group is funded by the Polkadot treasury itself. So to say, okay, to develop this community capacity, not forcefully as an incorporated entity or something like this. Not sure if fellowship is actually incorporated, but I don't think so. Correct me if I'm wrong, Paul or Tommy. And to say, okay, they have this community capacity building around governance as well, right? Making sure that you have actually the folks in place. So when it comes to decentralization in our regard, ideally IoT, Cardano Foundation, and the Worgo don't play any, let's say, key role anymore within the ecosystem, right? Though right now IoT is a really strong and important player, right? Because they manage a bunch on the tax ledger just off Cardano. And to say, if we want to get actually really decentralized and also in this regard, it means we need to get rid of them actually in this regard, right? Make them obsolete and having a community capacity building up so that the founding entity is not that important anymore. Like for example, in Polkadot, we have the founding entities as well, like Web3 Foundation and Parity. And they're still very active and still important, but not that crucial anymore for Polkadot actually in this sense. Like on Cardano, we don't really have concepts yet on to say, okay, because for example, on these groups, on this bunch of groups, how are they paid? How are they rewarded actually? Or is everything there fallen or being in the constitutional committee, for example?
They're gonna have to go through treasury withdrawals and a budget.
So they have to come up with their own proposals then actually.
Yep.
So each of these groups independently and request the budgets to the treasury and then all the work is
Request the
decided.
money, provide the right rationale, convince the community to give them the money.
Okay, but
Yes.
it's not programmed in. So okay, good. That's interesting then, actually. Okay.
Yeah, so you have to pretty much follow the people,
So,
follow their line of thoughts. Because if you don't, they won't provide you funding, pretty much. But of course, I mean, I'm expecting the community to do such thing because they haven't done anything bad so far, right? I mean, like they want to build, I'm not gonna hold them from doing that. And on top of that, I'm gonna have maybe more transparency about what they do because they have to actually convince us to give them the money. So they will probably say more than they usually do right now, because right now they just, they could not care because they hold these 7 Genesis keys. But they won't after the Chang'e fork.
Yeah, so the only rewards baked into the system are voting rewards. Voting rewards for participating in the governance. That's not, and each entity has their own way of voting in that system and getting some rewards, but that doesn't compensate any organization on top of that trying to change something or get an idea grown or anything like that. So all that would be.
You're talking about the catalyst voting, right? Are you talking about?
Well, I'm not talking about the catalyst voting, but I'm saying that it turns into another money faucet. Catalyst has been the only money faucet on Cardano to date. But now there will be one big one, and then any future catalyst fund could be a second money faucet, or any future other catalyst could be a second money faucet.
Because as it is right now, as a D-rep, you don't get paid. As a delegator to a D-rep, you don't get paid. As a construction committee member, you don't get paid from the system. But I'm expecting them to eventually get paid, or they're gonna have to do a governance action. Because what you can do a treasury withdrawal, but I can I can add to this governance action like up to 400 stake credentials to pay those people if I wanted to. They could get paid this way for the work that they do, because I believe that in some occasion it might become a full-time job, definitely, especially for construction committee. So I'm expecting them to, eventually ask for money. If it's reasonable, I would.
And they can include
yes on that.
Up to 400 different stake addresses to pay out rewards to programmatically in an action. Yeah.
for each action, because I'm just guessing that it would be the maximum transaction size for a single transaction. From my calculations, yeah, it would be 400. Well, it could be probably more. I haven't tested it. I'm going to test it now that I think of it.
Break it.
But no, oh man, don't make me talk about that.
No, don't. You don't have to.
Other thing,
Yeah.
like,
Used to be a
because
dictator. I used to be a dictator of the. I tricked the governance system, and I become a dictator for a good while. I was controlling the entire thing. It was fun.
Testnet.
It was fun, but it was dangerous as well.
Can I ask
Anyway.
another question? Or
Yep.
Is there a kill switch? I mean, Cardano has been preparing this for a long time. I mean, the way things are done in Cardano is that you think it through, you have certain committees, you publish some papers, and you discuss, and it's like Swedish people on steroids. So Polkadot has Kusama, so incentivized testnet according to some, but not really a testnet, but the sister chain. So they put the OpenGov on Kusama first, and it just was a disaster. Then they were like, okay, and we're supposed to do this after 6 months in Polkadot. Like, there are certain things that we need to take into account. So it was a bit easier on Polkadot side, but still there's a lot of drama. So what will happen in Cardano when none of this has been tested, apart from in Sanchonet, that's not real? What happens when it doesn't work?
I obviously, I mean, if I could share you my testing, but I think like if I haven't tested every single corner or pieces of available tests that's doable, then I probably did something wrong, because I
mean, you have been testing the technology, but you haven't been testing the people. You haven't been testing the grifters yet.
There will be a test phase, right? It's not like the whole thing will all go directly live, right? There will also be a, let's say, interim constitutional committee.
No, we are on the yes. We are on the test phase as we speak on Sanchonet. Sanchonet is the chain to test those features, and I tried every possible way to break it. And recently we did like a spam of invalid credentials, CC credentials, and I managed to submit 1.5 millions of those fake credentials on chain within the first 24 hours. And doing a query of the committee state was like as heavy on my CPU than doing a ledger state. And it was kind of funny, but I didn't manage to break it. But the thing is, yeah, I did a lot of testing, and I would hope to test the mainnet load very soon if that was possible. I actually made script for that too. So I calculated it would take me like 6 days. So 3 days to fill up every single block with I calculated 200 stake registration per block. So for a total of 1.5 million per epoch of 24 hours, which would make 3 days to reach the same amount that's on the mainnet. And then I have to delegate those within the next 3 days to have the actual load that we have on mainnet. But the problem is for this, that the requirements for the testnet is not the same as the one that we have for the mainnet. And I'm going to break it definitively if the stake pool operators don't use a minimum of 8 to 16 gigs of memory for the stake pool operation on Sanchonet. And that's what I'm presently trying to convince them to do, because I'm just going too far again, right? I'm sorry.
I have two things. First, Tommy, can you tell the story? Because I think I missed the drama. And second, that's the reason why you have this Cardano CLI cheat sheet, because you write a huge bash script, which then pings your node all the time, right? That were two questions at the same time. First, Tommy, about the drama. The second, that is the reason why the cheat sheet of the Cardano CLI exists. Two questions.
Okay, so the first one, yeah. So Mike, you were still answering about the technical perspective. I believe that everything has been tested technically and it works like a charm. But the difference is that one tada, like fake ADA that you're using in SanchoNet is worth $0 USD, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the difference. So once you have real ADA that's worth real money, you will get unexpected behavior from people, and
That's correct.
that is something that you haven't been able to test yet. So what happened in Kusama was that pretty much all the OpenGov proposals were approved like that in the beginning. And it just depleted the treasury like very fast. And because of this, when it came to Polkadot, everyone was just naying everything, like voting against everything just because. And it was like, you have to get past this hurdle to get anything out of this. So it was really difficult to get anything out of it. So
why does not everything approved? Like, what was the story? Like, I missed that.
Well, it was just super easy to pass any proposals in Kusama because, you know, it was like that time in the market that no one really cared about anything. And then there's money available and it's like, okay, here's a proposal.
Oh, that's how the GM chain went through. I think like with 5K or something, we launched a new chain, GM chain, because the initial stake, what we needed to send something was super low. So
that's crowd
Good Morning chain appeared. Yeah.
At one point, parachain on Kusama was like $3 or something.
Okay.
If I can just say, I mean, on Cardano, they tried to make the rules so instead of saying don't be evil, you cannot be evil. Like you will always have, at the end of the day, the constitutional committee being able to stop you from doing stupid things, like withdrawing all the money from the treasury. Ultimately, if there's not enough DREP, or if there's too few voting power amongst those too few DREPs, for example. But that being said, on CentralNet, I tricked the faucet into right at the beginning because that's where it was the weakest. Because as you can see up there, like I mentioned, the active voting stake is only decided amongst the active DREPs. And as soon as they started the CentralNet, I was there ready with my countless IPs address and my countless credentials ready to get money from the faucet and to auto give myself above 51% of the total voting stake. So the first thing I did was to withdraw 10 million from the treasury to myself to make sure that I could hold always more power than everyone else on CentralNet, to make sure to sit on my throne forever. And when I did that, what I wasn't expecting is that it recurrently gave me 10 millions every day since. And that was a glitch. And I was like, oh, what's going on? I don't like this. And I was seeing the treasury, the treasury pot going down, like as I was draining it over time. And then I went to Carlos from IOG and I was like, hey, there's something wrong there. I don't feel comfortable about this. And they fixed it. But it was
I hope there's no faucet on the mainnet.
No, obviously not. But that's not the only thing I did, because the actual faucet, we broke it as well. And hold on, give me a second.
Yeah, the same is in Ethereum with the faucet. When you know the stories about the faucet in Ethereum, like they change basically every 3 months they change a faucet. The most funniest thing was like there was girly ETH, which was like the testnet token, and because the symbol of the testnet token was also ETH, not some other ETH, it's also ETH. So in China they made a bunch of scams out of it. They said, hey, I will give you Ethereum. That was like 2020. I will give you Ethereum and you give me money. So they give money and they give girly ETH. And it took a while until they realized that's not a real ETH, that's girly ETH. Yeah, that was this kind of hack, but different, like on a testnet, right?
What else did happen? Yes, I mean, like it was a joke because I didn't know about it before. You know that 420 thing, right? Like that's for weed, or I'm not even sure of the entire story about this, but I know that 420 is an important number for those who smoke weeds. And there was the 69 as well. So I was with Van, and this guy was he's a heavy smoker, and he told me like, hey, change the minimum fees for 420.069. I was like, yeah, that could be funny, and I had all the power, so that's what I did. I changed the protocol parameter, and what I didn't know is that the UTXOs from the faucet were a fixed amount. So when you query from the faucet, you would get 10,000 fake ADA plus there was a tiny amount which was 200,000 loveless to pay the fees. But by raising the minimum fees, the faucet was unable to give you a flat 10,000 and pay for the fees. So I broke the faucet and I kind of hold everyone else from joining the testnet by doing that. So Samuel sent me a DM, and the only thing he told me was like, fix that. I was like, okay, I'm sorry. And that's one of the things we did. But the reason why we actually took the power was because I wanted to test every single voting possibilities of the constitutional committee. And I've put all that on my repository of GitHub. If you want to see it, it's called, that's the repository called testnet scenario. And I've put every testing we did with the governance state of each epoch since epoch 2000, 208 to like, I don't remember which one, but I tracked everything. The DREP state, the DREP distribution, every single thing. We tracked it. The governance section as well, how we managed to kick out the former constitutional committee using our crazy power and to elect ourselves as the new constitutional committee. And everything we did is, the data and we wrote down everything we did there.
Well documented.
Yep. And what else? Yeah, that was the dictatorship part. So in response to that, they respawned the chain and they made another fork to actually, so we got lost in the multi-fork universe, and then I had to create another self in the new fork. And this time they managed to fix things so I couldn't, do the same with the governance. So what we did, we actually decided to attack it in a different way. We were looking, well, actually, we were trying to prove a point because the deposit was back then 1,000 ADA, 1,000 fake ADA, but we didn't think it was enough to hold people from spamming the chain with governance action. And that's what we did. We gathered together a good couple of people, and that's recorded as well. We spammed the chain with 8,800 governance action within the same epoch. And the reasoning behind that and the rationale was like, there's no way a DREP is going to read 8,800 different governance actions and actually vote on those. So we need a higher deposit. And that's what we did. We managed to convince them to raise that. And that's pretty much what we do. We just try to prove our point by doing bad things that we expect people to do, because I'm a big fan of Murphy's Law, right? If you can do something bad, or if something bad can happen, it will happen. And so yeah, so the last testing we did was the spamming, because there's a deposit for everything on Central and on Cardano except the authorization certificate for constitutional committee members, and we tried to prove that we needed one. So they didn't really listen, and we figured out, we were like, okay, then if it's cheap to attack the chain, then we'll do it for cheap. And for barely 1,600 fake ADA, which is not too much if you ask me, we managed to generate and spam the constitutional committee state with 1.5 million invalid certificates.
Mm.
And
Bit too easy.
1,600. Well, it was cheap. It's like barely 0.178 per transaction, and I batched them all like 400 cert per transaction times 4 that I could use to fill the blocks. So we just did that using TMUX and 8 wallets at the same times using the same memory pool. No, two different memory pools. Anyway, I'm getting too deep again. I'm sorry.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for coming, Mike. I've got to drop off.
I'm sorry.
It's been great chatting with all of you. And it's awesome to talk governance and learn more. Peace. Bye-bye.
Awesome. See you, Pete. And maybe, good point then, because we are 2 hours? Yeah, 2 hours we're on the call. Really good 2 hours. But what do you think, guys? Give it a break and maybe continue the session another day if you would have time and fun to do so. Like, I would love to continue the discussion.
I can explain the rest of it. I'm sorry, I really talked too much. I realize it.
No, you don't, Mike, because
I should stay silent.
What you call speaking too much, I call details and insights. Like, none of the stuff you mentioned was like not valuable. Yeah, so really, this makes you really outstanding, right? You can dive deep into so many parts and give details. Like, be proud of this. Don't say sorry.
We are not in Finland. We are allowed to speak with other people.
The thing is, of course.
Of which I need to drop off. There's a crisis. So thanks, Mike. I need to go.
Oh no, there was no cited. It was just like
we the thing is we can't test everything, right? Like I think that's Paul that mentioned it, and there's no way of knowing what's going to happen on mainnet. But that's why the first hard fork, the construction committee is going to have full control over everything, and they will be able to quantify what's actually happening and adjust the values of each protocol parameters according to that, especially the thresholds of the voting mechanism, because it's going to be important. We need the sweet spot, right? Like between like how much vote we get versus how much we're expecting. And that's what we're going to do after the first hard fork, or that's what the constitutional committee is going to do pretty much. But that's what it is.
I think to Cardano and Polkadot governance, we can also say they're both not really static, right? I think they build a first framework and architecture, and then there's so many adjustable parameters that you say definitely you build the thing over the experience of the governance system itself then as well, right? But you need to bring it in life to know where you need to develop it then actually, right? And also,
for example, in Polkadot, first we had something which I already forgot the name, and then OpenGov came around, which is like the new government system that was like around last year. And slowly it gets good adopted. And now they want to clean up the relay chain. And the next big thing is, I think Felix talked already with Tommy about the Polkadot 2.0, which is then something new. And then most likely because of that one chain, change in the chain, we will have to adapt the governments as well again. And this over the time. Like usually when we speak about old governments, like typical like the Canada governments or like France government, the rules 50 years ago, they don't apply now. And that's good. That's the reason why we changed them. I forgot my point.
Nice. Are you recording this? Is there a way maybe after I can reach that video, or are you gonna send me a link? Yeah,
definitely. I can send you a file, and we publish it on uniFires YouTube as well. But I sent you a file over. I also run it through transcribe and improve the transcription. Then usually this AI tools do really cool stuff there. So you also get the summary, highlights, and key topics of the conversation.
Nice.
Definitely.
I'm gonna go to bed. That's okay with you guys?
Definitely.
I still need one link first for tomorrow, I guess. You had this Cardano node CLI cheat sheet. I want to have that.
It's all on the website.
I see currently 10 links. And what was the name?
I send it to you, Frank. Don't mind.
Discord? able
Yes, I
dash
sent it in
pool.
Discord.
Yeah, able-pool.io, and there's two tabs: document tab and Voltaire's tab. And the document tab, you want to look for the cheat sheet. That's actually the last version, the very last version. I always update them. And if you want to understand how they work and the brackets and the priority, what's required, what's optional, you have to use the study sheet. The study sheets, yes.
For me, it's more like the goal to spin up a local Cardano test, local Cardano net, where I can use in some kind of client library and say, hello, I'm Alice, and I want to send something to Bob. And then I see the Cardano chain running, and then I enter my script and I see how something goes from Alice to Bob. And for that, like how to spin up a local Cardano chain. For example, in Ethereum, you have Ganache. In Polkadot, you have all the binaries like Polkadot binary, Moonbeam binary, Asta binary, or you take a whole network and you spin up the ZombieNet binary, which is then like spins up all other binaries to have this network. Or the same with Ethereum, you have this. There's another tool which does the same. You have the Ethereum main chain, and then you want to have your side chain, and you want to see if that works. So you have to spin something else up. Anyways, yeah, that was kind of the background why I asked that question. Cool.
Hold on, I'll give it to you like right now, very soon. Let me check.
I already have it in Discord.
The binaries for the node?
No, the binary is not.
Hold on. Right there. So that's the last version. That's the pre-release if you want to use the test net. The chat. Where's the chat? I'm not very used to Zoom. Just give me a moment. Where's the chat? Okay, I'm gonna
Oh, and the naming of working groups, that comes from the whole Cardano ecosystem, right?
People who step up, engage, submit a topic, propose a topic, and start with it very often.
Yeah, because like working group is like, okay, let's call it working group. Like sounds not the coolest, but okay. But now I get it. Where's it coming from? Yeah.
Well, at least for the intersect working groups, right?
No, in general, the word working group, like why we say interoperability working group, governance working group, why we say working group or not tribe or clan or something like that. But now I get it. It's because the other people use it as well. It's just a cultural thing. Like that doesn't matter.
That's actual right now as it is, because we still have the IOG, right? And then those programmers who still technically control the programming part of the chain, where the working groups are groups that makes recommendations depending on the topic they're working on.
Yeah, right. That's the same. I think that comes from the Linux community. They have their working groups. That's like, where is it grounded? Or like in the open source movement, they have these working groups, or that comes in the end from the universities because they had it, something like that.
Cool.
I'm
gonna
awesome.
go to bed.
Definitely.
It was nice to meet you guys. It was really nice.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.